What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, superstar boxer, former two-time, two-division world champion superstar boxer who is retired, turned colorful analyst for ESPN, the top rank, that being Timothy Desert Storm Bradley Jr. He finished his career 33 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, 13 wins by way of knockout, 5'6" with a 69-inch arm reach, okay? Those 2 losses came at the hands of Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, legendary 8-division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer. And he had a draw against Diego Chavez on his resume in 2014, okay? Timothy Bradley, you know, he had an interesting take when it came to the decision. We know that undefeated 2-division world champion, who is currently the reigning WBC junior lightweight world champion, Mexican superstar boxer Oscar Valdez. We know the events leading up into his fight with Olympic gold medalist Brazilian star boxer ROBSON CONCEICAO. Okay, we know Oscar Valdez, he tested positive for a banned substance, amphetamine A and B sample, and was still allowed to fight in this fight yesterday, Friday night, against ROBSON CONCEICAO. Okay, Timothy Bradley was not shy on speaking his mind on what he thought. You know, this fight should not have been allowed to proceed. So Timothy Bradley, he wasn't short on words when it came to Oscar Valdez being allowed to fight. And Timothy Bradley, he commentated the fight with Oscar Valdez and ROBSON CONCEICAO. Okay, Timothy Bradley, he felt that ROBSON CONCEICAO should have, you know, he clearly won the first half of the fight in his eyes. He said in the second half, you know, he did start to fade. But I personally, my personal opinion, I thought ROBSON CONCEICAO won the fight. Timothy Bradley is not opposed to Oscar Valdez getting the victory, but he wouldn't have been opposed to ROBSON CONCEICAO getting the victory. But Timothy Bradley, he then had a very, very interesting take on the judge we now know worked for the WBC, World Boxing Council, with President and CEO Mauricio Sulaiman. They are very close friends, okay? They are very close friends. His name is Blair, okay? And we now know he works for, you know, the WBC, this particular judge, and he scored the fight 117 to 110 in favor of Oscar Valdez. So Timothy Bradley, this is what he had to say regarding that.
In my opinion, bro, I've been around the sport a long time, man. No, it wasn't a highway robbery. I didn't like the scorecard 110, 117. Yeah. Bro, like, fire that dude. Like, what was he looking at? You know, he was on the pay. He was on the pay on the pay scale. So
you heard what he said. Timothy Bradley, he stated, what was that judge looking at? He already made his decision before the fight even started, and said we know he was already on the payroll. And Timothy Bradley, he was spot on, because yes, this judge is on the payroll, okay? And this particular judge, has a close relationship going back, dating far back with Mauricio Sulaiman Sr., okay? With Mauricio Sulaiman's father, before Mauricio Sulaiman even, you know, took over for his father. You can see, you go to Stephen Blair, Stephen, Stephen, Blair, Blea, right? Blair. You go to his Twitter, and he says it's Stephen Blair with the WBC. So he announces, and all his pictures and all his photos are with Mauricio Sulaiman and his father, Mauricio Sulaiman himself, the WBC belt, the WBC jacket, WBC shirts. Everything is supporting the WBC. So this clearly lets us know, and this was a clear indication, that ROBSON CONCEICAO had stood no chance to win this fight unless he absolutely got a knockout. If he got a knockout, they wouldn't have had a choice. But the fact is, like Timothy Bradley stated, they allowed this fight to take place when it shouldn't have been allowed, because if there's anybody else that didn't represent Mexican descent, they would not have been allowed to continue to fight. They would have been suspended, and they would have been stripped of their belt. And then, even if you are Mexican descent, we know undefeated 2-time super middleweight world champion, WBC Mexican superstar boxer David Benavidez, he was stripped of his title for using recreational use outside of the sport of boxing. It wasn't in contest. Just like amphetamine, what they're saying is, according to WBC Mauricio Suleiman, it's equivalent to taking 3 Red Bulls. And it shouldn't be on the banned substance list. But we know it acts as a masking agency. It flushes out other banned substances. And it also works as a weight loss agency. Okay? And it also works in, giving you stamina. Okay? So it does work as a performance enhancer. Now, they're going by WADA. Okay? Not VADA, UCOD, and USADA. They're going by WADA. WADA doesn't ban it until day of. So you can't use it in competition. You can use it leading up to competition, but you can't use it in competition. So if you can't use it in competition, well, they're letting you know that the reason you can't use it is banned from being used in competition is because, well, it gives you an enhancement. Hence, performance enhancers. Okay? You're not supposed to have any performance enhancers. So even WADA bans it from being in competition, meaning that you can't use it the day of competition. So that means it acts as a performance enhancer. Regardless of how you try to slice it, it's a performance enhancer. It's on the ban list, and it should not have been in his system. And he cited that it was in herbal tea. And then once people started to do their homework, and people started to say, well, even if it wasn't a tea, and you could cite the tea as the cause and the reasoning for this being in your system, then you knew you shouldn't have had the tea to begin with. Well, then you had guys like Victor Conte, who's very, very close. We know the situation with Victor Conte and Balco and all of that scandal in the sport of baseball. Okay, you know he's the scientist, the mad scientist behind performance enhancers, and he says, well, tell him to give us the herbal tea that he drank, and let us give it to WADA, give it to USAID, give it to VADA, and let's see if amphetamine is actually in this herbal tea that he drank. And then his team then backtracked and said, well, we don't know if it was the herbal tea. We don't even remember what herbal tea he drank. This further lets us know that he had this in his system and it didn't come from herbal tea or any one of those sources. Okay. And so with that said, Timothy Bradley, he lets it be known that these guys have guys on the payroll. And so they allowed this fight to take place because it's Mexican Independence Day weekend. It's a huge weekend in the sport of boxing. It's a lot of money on the line. He's a superstar in Mexico. This fight was taking place in his backyard, in his hometown, adopted hometown, Arizona. And they wanted this fight. The Boxing Commission approved of it to continue. And they wanted this fight to take place. And so not only did the fight take place, and they allowed it, and they got a lot of critique due to that, well, guess what? Not only did that take place, but Robson CONCEICAO surprised many people in outboxing Oscar Valdez for the whole first half of the fight. But this one particular judge, Stephen Blair, he decided to give Oscar Valdez 4 out of the first 6 rounds that we clearly see everybody in the arena, the other 2 judges, they all had Robson CONCEICAO winning this fight at that point in time, and that gesture in the fight. Except him, because he made his decision before the fight even started. And we know that Stephen Blair, he works for the WBC, and he doesn't even attempt to hide it, okay? He lets it be known that he has a close relationship with the WBC, Mauricio Suleiman, and their fighters, okay? And he's proud to let it be known that he represents that belt. He takes multiple pictures with this belt, okay? And so then you had announcers. Stephen A. Smith Timothy Bradley went in on announcers that was saying that Oscar Valdez should get a pass because it's not his fault. Okay, he says that it's not his fault that this is happening. He states that it's the WBC fault and the Boxing Commission fault. So Timothy Bradley, he lets it be known, no, he and Andre Ward, Olympic gold medalist, retired undefeated Hall of Famer, superstar boxer turned colorful analyst and co-host with Timothy Bradley, Andre Ward, they both went in, right? And they let it be known to Mark Kriegel, who was trying to say that it's not Oscar Valdez's fault. Well, Andre Ward, he said, yeah, sure it's Oscar Valdez's fault because it's his body and he's responsible for what goes into his body. Okay, he tested positive. So if he didn't test positive and he didn't have it in his system we wouldn't be talking about it today. So it's not the WBC fault. It's not the Boxing Commission fault. It's not Bob Arum's fault, legendary promoter, top rank CEO and promoter of Oscar Valdez. It's not Canelo Alvarez's fault. It's Oscar Valdez's fault for not being accountable for what's going into his system, point blank and period. And so he needs to be held accountable. But Mark Krieger was trying to give him a pass and saying, well, we can't blame him, and I'm not going to throw a big fight of this magnitude away because a fighter tested positive. Well, what about the safety, the betterment and the safety of the sport of boxing and other fighters? And what about the double standards, because other fighters will not be allowed to do the same thing? So here, Timothy Bradley, he lets it be known to Mark Krieger as well. He says, I don't know what you're talking about, but I do know he tested positive A and B sample and should not be fighting tonight. And now Timothy Bradley, he clears the air and lets it be known that the WBC have guys on payroll, and we know this. And this is a part of the problem, and this guy should be fired, okay? And this is Stephen Blair. Just like the WBA, World Boxing Association, President Gilberto Mendoza felt a lot of pressure after his fight took place between Michael Fox and Maestro, and Michael Fox clearly won the fight, dropped Maestro, and he didn't get the decision. Okay, they didn't reverse it, but that the judge later found out has a close relationship with the WBA, is married to somebody who's also a close relationship with the WBA, and had interesting background, to say the least, via social media, had some very choice words for some certain people, and that judge was suspended. The fight was investigated, and it was ruled a no contest because of conflict of interest. And that should be the same thing that takes place in this situation. As Timothy Bradley stated, we know this guy is on the payroll. Come on, let's listen to what Timothy Bradley had to say one more time.
110, 117, yeah. Bro, like, fire that dude. Like, what was he looking at? You know he was on the pay. He was on the pay on the pay scale. So fire that guy. Get rid of him.
So there you have it. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
You're watching Blue Blood Sports TV. Wow.